Hello and welcome to Freeing Yourself from Limiting Beliefs. I almost hated to stop the music because I was enjoying the music. I was dancing to it. So I hope you're having a wonderful start to the weekend or the week, I should say. So let us begin now by talking about part one of the four-part series. And at the end of this part, we're going to basically ask you to take 2 weeks and practice some of the techniques that I'm proposing here so that you can actually have it, internalized. So I want to share with you a story where what inspired me to do what I'm doing now and why I came up with a 4-week program or a 4-session program. It's actually 8 weeks. Because I all my life I was playing small. And so I want to share with you some of the life experiences of what I went through and how much I've learned about myself. And then I can bring you this information so you can actually shortcut your path to greatness. So I barely passed high school math. I got barely they call it P for pass. It's one above a D for basically not good. And then, it took me 27 years to finally achieve straight A's in a graduate engineering degree program. So that 27 years was fraught with, kind of figuring out what was going on with me, had low self-esteem issues. I was playing small. I never aimed high until the day I decided to aim high. It took me 27 years to get there. I was also in my early career denied promotions. People who were senior to me were coming to me for advice and suggestions, but I would never get promoted. And something shifted in me that I became promoted to a vice president of a Fortune 500 company. It took me 16 years from when I really decided to put my mind to it and asking for promotions to the time when I actually became an executive at a Fortune 500 company. 16 years for that achievement is not that long, but I know I could have achieved it in a shorter amount of time with more potency. I was a relatively unknown in the spiritual speaking circuit. And I was invited then by Hay House author, some of you know him as Lee Carroll, of the Cryon fame, to actually co-facilitate and deliver keynote addresses to global events. It took me 7 years to do that. So you can see that progressively I'm getting better at manifesting my desires, getting better at playing big and tapping into my greatest potential. And one of the things that I have discovered on the journey of this is when I have actually achieved something that I've dreamt of doing, I've already set my sights on something greater. So this is a never-ending saga. You'll never stop playing big, because it's not playing big, it's playing bigger than you are now. So wherever you are right now, what you're doing is you're playing big for when you were 5 years ago. This is your achievement of playing big, or 10 years ago, or 27 years ago, in my example here. So wherever you are now, that was your playing big before. And now you have just been accustomed to that. And now you're striving for something big. So I want to talk about the 4 parts of doing that. The first part is, we discuss about 3 levels of wants and needs. This is an important foundational principle before we move on to anything else, is what are we desiring? And there are certain things that we want to be able to explore in this journey of desires. Second thing is that when we're actually desiring something, we will experience some limiting beliefs that will keep us playing small. So what I want to do is on part 2, I want to explore and dive deep into, okay, what are the limiting beliefs that's holding us back? And then once we know what those limiting beliefs are, then basically we can reprogram them at a cellular level. And this is where we apply some of the techniques that will become very useful on part 3 of this thing, where we will actually invite a change in our limiting beliefs cellularly. Okay, so it happens at every cell in our body. And then the part 4 is now, where do you go from there? So now you've made an internal change. What is it that we need to do in order for us to now start aiming bigger and stop playing small? So there's a journey that I'm going to lay out in the next 4 sessions over the 8-week program that will help us move forward and propel ourselves forward. So by the end of this program, you will have already moved towards your greatest desires. And I want to share with you, the first part of this is to first define our wants and needs. And we want to talk about the 3 levels of wants and needs. There are 3 levels of desires that we have. So now I'd like you to take a few minutes to actually list, and whatever it is, there's no judgment, list what your wants are. From where you're standing right now, this is your, we talked about this. This was your goal 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where you're now. Well, from here, when you project forward, what is your new wants? What are they? List them out, a few. And so take that for a few minutes to do that. Write them out on a piece of paper or in your journal. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that. In my example, and this is just off the top of my head, these are not my desires, but I just pulled it out from based on my conversations with others and when I've worked with them on this particular aspect. I've heard that I want a 5-bedroom house in Maui, in Hawaii, and I want a Lexus RC 350 vehicle. I want to own and operate an organic farm and a wellness center in Costa Rica. Those are all desires people have. And so, and try and be more specific. Like I try to be somewhat specific here, but you can certainly say that I want a 5-bedroom house in Maui, in Hawaii, located, 1 block away from a beach, with wonderful, whole food stores where I can get organic foods, things like that. You can be very specific. So write this down. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. All right. Okay, if you want to share, please type that into the chat area. And then this is by no means required, but I'm happy to provide coaching, guidance, my comments, my reflections of your thoughts. So if you want to type those in, I'd like to share with you what I wrote in my little journal here. So my wants and needs here are freedom to travel. So I want to be able to travel. I want global access to speaking events. I want to be able to be invited to speaking events where I share some of my thoughts like I have here. I'd like a house that feels like a home, inviting to others, near nature, and that house that inspires creativity. That's something that I want. And the other item that I wrote down is I want a healthy body, mind, and spirit. And then the last item that came to me was I want to have deep connections with like-minded individuals. So those are my wants and needs. And I wrote this down. I didn't have this prepared before, and I forced myself not to do any pre-work before. I wanted to just do it live and to experience what we're all experiencing on this particular live call, or if you're having this replay. So those are my kind of wants and needs right now. So feel free to share if you have any, share with me. And we'll just move on unless I see you, and then I'll stop to comment. Now, I want to share with you the 3 levels of wants and needs for humanity. So this is something that we categorize our wants and needs into 3 different levels, okay? So the first level is we have a want or a need or a desire that is specifically good for us as individuals. So, something that I want, this is good for me, to the exclusion of everybody else. This is what I want. This will make me happy. Okay, so this is all about me. This is good for me. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just a categorization, as this is a level of desire. And so the first one we categorize our wants is this is good for me. The next level is this is good for us. So for example, if I have a desire that is good for my family, then this is like for my family. Now, it means that I choose, if I were to choose happiness of my family over another family, I've picked my family. So it's not about me, it's about my family, or it's about my neighborhood, or it's about my city, or it's about my country, or it's about, my continent, okay? But it's all about not that expansive, but it's about us. So, if you're, people in Ukraine are saying, this is about Ukraine, and people in Russia are saying, this is about Russia. So this is all about level 2 need, wants and desires. I want to do this for my country, okay? So that's all level desires. Then the third level is this is good for humanity. And this requires a more of a higher level of consciousness. This is where sacrifice comes in. This is where I will set aside my own needs, my own desires. This is where I'll set aside my family's needs and desires, but I will do this for the greater humanity. There are many examples of people who've done each one of these. For example, that this is good for me is I want a car, and I want to have this kind of a car because it makes me feel good that I have got this kind of a car. Or I want a Tag Heuer watch, which is like, tens of thousands of dollars, because it'll make me feel good because I've just got this watch. This is good for us. Example would be, I want to have, this house where I can have all of my family live with me, and or in my neighborhood, and we can visit each other, and we can support each other, and it's near all these amenities that we can go and have a picnic, or we can go and sit on a lake, have a picnic at the lake near us. This is good for us. So that's an example of good for us category. Good for humanity is I want to start providing a not-for-profit service to others. I will not make a lot of money, but this is my service to others, and it makes me feel good, and it makes others feel good. It makes everybody feel good. This is good for humanity because I'm serving humanity in this way. All right. Those are the 3 levels of wants and needs. So, Michelle, thank you for contributing. I'm going to read it out. Michelle wants radiant health, inner peace, deep connections to the divine, my heart, my son, my beloved, my family, my friends, freedom to live as I choose, career of service, living harmoniously with the world around me. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So now that we've got all these things, your next assignment, next thing you want to do is beside each of the line of wants that you have, identify which level of wants and needs is best associated with that want. So take every line of your want and need and say, is this good for me and to the exclusion of everybody else? Not that it's bad for everybody else. It's everybody else will not have any kind of an adverse impact because you want to buy a watch, say, for example, but the watch is there just for you. So is this good for me? Is this particular desire good for us, like in a neighborhood, maybe a romantic couple, your family, and this is good for us? And is your wants and desire good for humanity? Okay, so next, I want you to take a few minutes and categorize each of your wants and needs on these three different levels. So for example, in the example I cited earlier, is I want a 5-bedroom house in Maui, Hawaii. Well, this is level 2 because this is good for my family. I can have my family over. My family can enjoy life with me. I want a Lexus RC350 vehicle. Well, that's level 1 because it's good for me. It's what I want. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But let's be sure we understand that this is level 1. It's purely level 1. The last item that I suggested was I want to own and operate an organic farm and a wellness center in Costa Rica. Well, this is level 3. This is good for humanity. It also happens to be good for me because I can retire in Costa Rica in this example. All right. And I could have, all of my other desires meet. So the best thing that could happen is what's good for me is also good for humanity rather than me sacrificing myself for humanity. This is a win-win-win situation. So in your example of wants and needs, what is it that you categorize as each one of these? This is good for me. This is good for us. This is good for humanity. So take a few minutes and put that together, and I will do the same for mine. Okay. I trust that you've had time to think about the 3 levels. I can share with you my categorization. And if you want to share yours, please feel free to do so. So my first one, I said freedom to travel. That is listed as category 1 because it's good for me. It's what I want to do. My other one was global access to speaking events. To me, that's number 2 because that would help me and it would also inspire others at that event. So it's that event level of kind of bubble. The third one I said was a house that feels like a home, inviting to others, near nature, and inspires creativity. Well, that's 2 again, because I want my family to enjoy, my closest friends to enjoy that. I want people to visit me, my neighbors. That's a level 2. Healthy body, mind, and spirit. Well, that's a level 1 because that's me. And then deep connection to like-minded individuals would be a level 3 because I've been general about it. I said I want to connect deeply with others, which means the entire humanity. So whoever comes in my kind of a field of access to people, I want to create deep relationships with them, and that is level 3. So feel free to share your classifications, because this classification is an important aspect of what we want to talk about next, and that is inspiration. Inspiration is really, truly the path to success. And what I'd like to share with you now is some of the things that have happened in the world because people were inspired, some things that would not have happened if it wasn't for some inspiration created by individuals. Let's start looking at this inspiration thing. Let's look at back in 1873, a woman by the name of Susan B. Anthony. She was part of the suffrage movement along with other wonderful women. Back in 1873, she was arrested for voting because women were not allowed to vote in the United States. And so she voted. She was fined $100. She refused to pay, and she was taken to court for this, and they were going to jail her. What she said was she began, her quote, which inspires to this day, is men, their rights and nothing more, women, their rights and nothing less. What they're saying is that women are equal to men. Women are considered persons, just like men are. They're not property. It took many decades for this movement to actually come to fruition, where in the 1900s, early 1900s, women were allowed to vote. They were constitutionally allowed to vote. And so it was legal for them to vote. But before then, they didn't relent. They continued on and did this. They inspired an entire generation then, and they're still inspiring an entire generation now and ongoing. This has made a tremendous shift in humanity. So you can see that when Susan B. Anthony went to vote against the law at that time, she didn't do it as a me level. She didn't do it as an us level. Well, she did actually do it as an us level. She didn't intend to do it as a humanity level, but she did it as an us level, us meaning the women of the United States. Little did she know that this inspired other areas, in the world, but she didn't set out to do that. She did that number 2. She did this is a level 2 desire that she had, and what an amazing achievement for her to do that, and so much courage. So basically, she inspired a generation, which fostered a change, even though it took decades to do that. But there was inspiration involved. Let's talk about World War II. This is Sir Winston Churchill back in 1940. The Allies were actually losing the war, and the Nazis were prevailing at that time, and they were gaining a lot of momentum. So Sir Winston Churchill, facing defeat in England, he basically said, "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields. And in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." That inspired the war effort on the Allies side. Now, on the other side, with the Germans at the time, the Nazis, they were not really inspired. They were put to task through fear. So, when you talk about the difference in inspiration on one side and fear on the other side, you see that, history is established that the inspiration actually moves things forward and is more powerful than fear-generated rhetoric. So this inspired the front line. This inspired the war effort, and the Allies prevailed because the fear was overcome with inspiration. All right. So that's that. And I think about the technological achievement that happened because JFK made this historic speech. He says, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, and because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept. Very inspiring thoughts by JFK. They had no idea how they were going to get to the moon. And well, they knew how to get to the moon. They just didn't know how to get people back safely. And that was a challenge. And they were on a competitive basis with Russia, with the Soviet Union at the time, who were successful, who sent the first venture into space with Sputnik. So the Russians were first to get into space, but they were working with how do we get people to the moon and then back safely. And it seems like the inspiration in both kind of areas, countries, were driving them towards this. But this particular one we're familiar with because it's a very famous speech. So you see how this inspiration had created technology, a technological revolution, which is now used for our consumer goods and all of that. All of the technology that's developed in that, and even in World War II, all of the technology that was inspired are now benefiting others. Again, when you look at this, when you look at World War II, these are all level 2 type of achievements. And even in that level 2, when we talk about our ability to be inspired through level 2 goals, we're not even thinking about humanity. We're just thinking about our country. We're thinking about our allies. We're thinking about a specific segment of the United States population, the women, whatever those things are there. Those are like type 2 goals. And even in that type 2 goals, we've achieved tremendous feats. This is something that happened a more recent thing. Well, Alicia Milano once tweeted, and this inspired an entire movement. She tweeted, if all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote "Me Too" as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem. And that inspired an entire cultural shift of Me Too movement, where it was no longer acceptable for women to be harassed, sexually harassed or otherwise harassed. There was an entire movement. Organizations shifted and changed, at least in the North American context. This is also level 2 desire that she had. We know that when you create a level 2 desire, at least, you are creating something that's connected with you in the moment, that inspires you in the moment. And at the same time, what ends up happening is that it reverberates through an entire human race. Even though you're not trying to change and shift humanity, you are just trying to shift and be inspired to say something that actually attacks injustice. Just like Gandhi did with India. He did a level 2 kind of an us movement, but it inspired a generation of non-violent protests. We will do a peaceful protest. That's for peaceful protests. Gandhi showed that. So, these are all inspirational movements that changed the world for the better. Right? So now let's go back to the wants and desires that you listed. Identify on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is you're not inspired much on this one, to 5, you're getting goosebumps. This is wow, it's so inspiring. Identify the level of inspiration you feel about each of your wants. Okay, so I'd like so that to me is something that you want to identify. So we know that the key to achieving powerful creative force energy is inspiration. If you want to achieve your wants and desires, be inspired by the wants and desires, you can overcome and surmount any obstacle. We've seen examples in history where this has actually happened, where you aim for something that is lofty. You have no idea how you're going to get there, but you hold that vision. You know that inspiration will get you there. The key is how do you get inspired? So we know that level 3 wants and needs will lead you to inspiration. We also know that level 2 will actually lead to a level 3 desire. It'll just naturally gravitate. But really, the idea of I'm doing this for a global perspective, I'm doing this for humanity, will truly inspire yourself, or you will truly inspire others, or you will be inspired in that way. So, can you modify your wants and needs to give you a higher level of inspiration? Can you shift your level ones to a level two, or your level twos to a level three? And if you can, what does that look like? So, for example, I did a level one example here. I want a Tesla Model S car because if I have to drive anyways, I want to be conscious of the environment. Now, I just turned the level one wants and desires to something that benefits humanity, from lower emissions, more honoring the environment, and feeling good about contributing to the, to honoring the environment. So I just turned a level one into a level three. Now I can feel good and hold that vision about, driving this car. Now it's good for me, it's good for us, it's good for the entire humanity. Go back to your wants and needs and see if you can take a level one or a level two to one notch higher. Okay, so let's take a few minutes to do that. I'll do the same for mine. Okay. Let me know if you come across, if you're able to shift it. If you're not able to shift it, perhaps type it in and let's see if I can support you and help you and guide you in a certain direction. So while you're kind of thinking about that, if you want to share, go ahead. In the meantime, I can share with you what I came up with right now. My global access to speaking events. So I've qualified that now. That used to be like level 2. Qualified it to say I want global access to speaking events so I can become a catalyst for positive change in the lives of others. So that now feels a bit more inspirational. Okay. So if it didn't feel that inspiration before, that kind of feels a lot more inspirational. In my kind of wants, a house that feels like a home, so I can be inspired to create and to create programs to serve humanity. So before, I wanted a house that feels like a home, so I can invite others and I can have creative space and I can be in front of nature. But I added a qualifier. I said, so that I can create more programs to serve humanity. In my wants of, I want a healthy body, mind, and spirit. That was a level 1 before. And then I added a qualifier. I said, well, so I can have the mental and creative capacity, as well as the endurance to continue to serve globally. To me, that would be a qualifier that would inspire me to say, I want to have a healthy mind and body, not for myself necessarily, but for my ability to have the endurance and the stamina to serve others. And that shifts the entire level of inspiration in holding that vision. The last one that I had was deep connections with like-minded individuals so that I can continue to inspire and be inspired. We're not going to be always be in a position to always inspire everybody else. Once in a while, we will need inspiration ourselves. So creating that deep connection with others will allow you to be inspired as well, because we have to help each other ratchet up in this area. So that is really the key to achieving your desires, is to hold a vision that inspires you. And in that inspiration, that energy is the one that we will be working with next. So if you have pick any one of those wants and desires that inspires you, and I want to walk you through and take you through a guided process for the next 5 or so minutes to help entrench that inspiration in you and to actually hold that vision. And then once you hold that vision, then it becomes something that you do every day. And in that particular something that you do every day, you will work through it. So let us, if you want to put your pen and journal down and just be comfortable, we will now work through this particular aspect of creating this inspirational energy. And we want to just pick a particular want and desire that gives you inspiration, truly inspires you. And you can do this for every one of the inspiration that you've picked, or every one of the wants you picked. But for now, just pick one so that we can go through it. Okay. All right. So let us begin now. Let's begin by placing our awareness in the area of the heart. And just gently begin by taking slow, deep, gentle breaths. And imagine these breaths flowing in and out of our hearts. Just breathing very slowly, very gently, very deeply. Slow, deep, gentle breaths. If you take 5 seconds to breathe in, take 5 seconds to exhale. Make sure they are symmetrical. And as you take these breaths, see if you can draw these breaths even deeper. Imagine them flowing into your heart and down to your root chakra, your perineum. And as you exhale, exhale from your root chakra up to your heart and out beyond your heart. And as you do that, begin to reflect upon your wants and desires and needs. The one that instills a level of inspiration in you that gives you goosebumps. And just hold the energy, hold that vision in your heart, and do not worry about how you're going to get there. Your job is just to hold that vision, because you can do that. You can create that vision in your head, and you can bring that inspiration into your heart, and you can connect your heart with your head as you take these slow, deep, gentle breaths, and just be inspired. Generate that inspiration from within and fall in love with that want and desire. Just fall in love with it and allow those emotions to rise in you and then just energize you. Let's do that for a few breaths. Give your body permission to access a more intense level of inspiration. Put a smile on your face and access the unlimited potential of inspiration that's awaiting you. And if you get another inspiration to augment your wants and desires, go ahead and augment it with something that actually gives you more inspiration. So allow yourself to experience thoughts, emotions, inspiration, and add to your wants, needs, and desires if it gives you more inspiration. Continue that. Experience that. Now slowly bring your awareness back to this moment. Open your eyes if they were closed. Now, before I go into next exercise, your take-home exercise, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share with me your experience in this particular meditation, this guided meditation. Of course, this meditation will be available to you on a replay, and I'll add some calming music so that you have the full experience. But what was your experience right now? Did you feel a level of inspiration? And did you feel more inspired? Did something come through for you that says, hey, I need to augment or change my wants to add this level of qualification so that I'm even more inspired now than ever? You know, what is it that's going to happen? I'll share with you what happened for me is not only when I said that I want global access to speaking because I can have more access to help individuals become a positive change in their life, become a catalyst for a positive change in their lives. All of a sudden, as I was trying to gain the inspiration during this particular guided meditation, what came through for me was that if I were to even focus on the fact and be inspired by the fact that these individuals will affect everybody else that they come across, because they'll share their inspiration and their new understanding or their level of positive change will affect their families, and that will affect their workplace, and that will affect everybody else. So it was almost like the reach is much bigger, just like in the suffrage movement, just like in the Me Too movement, just like, you know, the changes that happened, you know, with the landing on the moon. You know, it starts out with this level 2 thing, but eventually it ripples through. So that helped me get inspired even more. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. And when we do the practice exercises, you will see the level of inspiration just heighten. And once you get to a level of inspiration and you hold that vision every day, it'll catalyze for you. It'll come together for you, and you will see a path forward. You will experience fear. We will tackle that another time. On one of the 4 sessions, we will tackle that. But you will actually have the foundational basis upon which to leap into achieving your reality. Michelle said that I was able to rewrite an old story of shame. Awesome. That's a huge breakthrough. So shame, you know, is the lowest vibration of any human vibration. When we talk about, you know, spiritual vibrations, shame is the lowest vibration, because shame is I want to hide. The one below that is death. I want to hide forever. So shame is just one vibration level above death. So if you've overcome that shame, you are now in that vibrational mode where your trajectory is moving upward, which is really the co-creative force. Is the inspiration will come from getting that vibration higher and higher, and you from there you'll be able to create whatever you want, as long as you stay inspired in your heart. All right. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Appreciate that. So for the next 2 weeks, every day, you know, when you write down your wants and needs, review it, modify it, augment it, that allows it to have more meaning in your life and give you more inspiration through that process. So review them and modify it if you're inspired to do that, of course. And practice creating inspirational energy. So you can use a replay of this thing, which I'll be posting shortly, within a day or so. And you can use the guided meditation if it helps, or you can just do your own meditation and hold the level of vision and inspiration for yourself. For preparation for in 2 weeks, for our program in 2 weeks, I want you to note down thoughts as you spend the next 2 weeks in doing this thing for every day. I want you to note down any thoughts when reflecting on your wants and needs, and when you're trying to get inspired. what are encouraging thoughts that come through, and what are the naysayer thoughts that come through? Something naysayer thoughts that would come through, for example, for me, might be that I want to create deep connections with like-minded people, so that I can be inspired and inspire others. Immediately something comes up of, what if you don't inspire others, and you say something that really drops their vibration? Blah, blah, blah. That's what happens in my head. Say that, I'm afraid to say something, because that will end up happening and I will destroy somebody's life. Now, if I'm always in my heart space, that will never happen. But that's a naysayer that comes up and drops my vibration, drops me out of that vision, holding that vision of being inspired and inspiring others. So this is, every day you'll see this. As you focus on your wants, needs, and desires, you will augment them as you get more inspired. And you will also have these naysayer thoughts that'll come through that say, you can't achieve this, you don't have enough money, whatever those are, write them down. We're going to handle that next week. We're going to not next week, but in 2 weeks, we're going to handle that. Okay, so make sure you write those down. Those are very important. So the next session will be about uncovering limiting beliefs. And this is where we'll take your naysayer thoughts and we will work with them. All right. So I'm open to questions. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the end of this particular installment. But if you have any questions, please type those in and I'm happy to respond. Otherwise, I will see you in 2 weeks, hopefully. All right. I see nothing coming through, so we will see you in 3 weeks then. Take care for now. There's something coming through now. Thank you. You're welcome, Michelle. Pleasure. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Always. All right. Take care for now.